The artist is the creator of beautiful things. To reveal art and conceal the artist is art's aim. The critic is he who can translate into another manner or a new material his impression of beautiful things. The highest as the lowest form of criticism is a mode of autobiography. Those who find ugly meanings in beautiful things are corrupt without being charming. This is a fault. Those who find beautiful meanings in beautiful things are the cultivated. For these there is hope. They are the elect to whom beautiful things mean only beauty. There is no such thing as a moral or an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. That is all. The 19th century dislike of realism is the rage of Caliban seeing his own face in a glass. The 19th century dislike of romanticism is the rage of Caliban not seeing his own face in a glass. The moral life of man forms part of the subject matter of the artist, but the morality of art consists in the perfect use of an imperfect medium. No artist desires to prove anything. Even things that are true can be proved. No artist has ethical sympathies. An ethical sympathy in an artist is an unpardonable mannerism of style. No artist is ever morbid. The artist can express everything. Thought and language are to the artist instruments of an art. Vice and virtue are to the artist materials for an art. From the point of view of form, the type of all the arts is the art of the musician. From the point of view of feeling, the actor's craft is the type. All art is at once surface and symbol. Those who go beneath the surface do so at their peril. Those who read the symbol do so at their peril. It is the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. Diversity of opinion about a work of art shows that the work is new, complex, and vital. When critics disagree, the artist is in accord with himself. We can forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it intensely. All art is quite useless. That is one of the most profound pieces of literature that I've ever read, and it's only 23 sentences long. It kept me going for a long time without actually reading the book. I was mesmerized by it, decoding meanings and igniting new and exciting trains of thought. This is the purpose of good literature, or of all art, perhaps. However, to impose meaning on a work of art is quite pointless. This has been true for me since I started debating literature in school in my teens, and it's still true to me now, so I won't presume to do the same. And I won't discuss whatever meaning I found in this piece, so I can let you find yours for yourself. After all, it is the spectator and not life that art really mirrors. What I will do is clarify some of the terms used here so that you can enjoy the text fully, and some of these will be obvious to you, some will not. I'll also share the most recent train of thought I embarked on when I reopened this book a couple of days ago for this recording. Here's a good synopsis of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This one I took from Goodreads. Dorian Gray, a handsome and narcissistic young man, lives thoughtlessly for his own pleasure, an attitude encouraged by the company he keeps. One day, after having his portrait painted, Dorian makes a frivolous Faustian wish that he should always remain as young and beautiful as he is in that painting, while the portrait grows old in his stead. The wish comes true, and Dorian soon finds that none of his wicked actions have visible consequences. Realizing that he will appear fresh and unspoiled no matter what kind of life he lives, Dorian becomes increasingly corrupt, unchecked by public opinion. Only the portrait grows degenerate and ugly, a powerful symbol of Dorian's internal ruin. This is one of the best books I've ever read, and if you're unfamiliar with it, I strongly recommend that if you're looking for a new book, pick up The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. It was first published in 1890 or 1891, depending on your source, and it is still so relevant today. Now, for those who don't know, let's talk a little bit about realism and romanticism, two styles mentioned in this preface. Realism in literature can be summarized as a genre that emphasizes showing life in its proper proportion, not concerning itself with extraordinary people, extraordinary circumstances, or fanciful plots. Rather, it focuses on how people behave and function in their daily lives, and it often serves as an explicit or implicit critique of society. Literary realism attempts to represent the subject matter truthfully, avoiding speculative fiction and supernatural elements. It can be broadly defined as the representation of reality. Romanticism in literature, on the other hand, can be summarized as a genre marked by a focus on the individual and the unique perspective of a person, often guided by irrational or emotional impulses, a respect for nature and the primitive, and a celebration of the common man. It emphasizes intensity to the point where it tends to privilege the intensity of an experience over its type or quality. Romantic protagonists are typically brilliant individualists who defy society's conventions in pursuit of some higher truth or achievement. Now, Oscar Wilde mentions a specific character in this preface, a character that goes by the name of Caliban. Not only do I love the name of this character, but I also love its origin. This is a character from Shakespeare's The Tempest. Some described Caliban as a kind of brutish servant of the magician Prospero. He is ugly and ignorant, but not lacking intelligence or ambition, and he fantasizes about stealing Prospero's books, which he can't read, in order to become more powerful than Prospero and overthrow him. I found another reference to Caliban in a beautiful book that I owned, and it's a dictionary of phrase and fable by E. Cobham Brewer. This is a beautiful, beautiful book. I found it in London under a bridge, and that's a story in itself, but it's a hardcover edition from the, I think, early 20th century, and it is basically a compilation of various phrases and characters that appeared in literature throughout the centuries, and the author went to the trouble of compiling them all in this wonderful, beautiful book. But anyway, I'm getting beside the point here. We're talking about Caliban. And in this book, I found a mention of the character Caliban that we're discussing. In it, the author sourced a quote by the English poet and critic Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who says about Caliban, "In him, as in some brute animals, this advance to the intellectual faculties without the moral sense is marked by the appearance of vice." And then Brewer concludes, "Caliban is the missing link between brute animals and man." What a character! If you haven't read The Tempest, I also strongly recommend it. Now, the last reference that I'm going to clarify is the mention of the word glass in the preface by Oscar Wilde. This is actually a short for the term looking glass, meaning mirror. And as I mentioned before, I'm not going to get into all the meanings that I've distilled for myself on my own. I'll let you find yours for yourself. But I will mention the latest train of thought that rereading this got me into. Now, I'm not going to follow a script or read points as I did so far. I had some bullet points here that I wanted to mention as I recorded this. I want to speak extemporaneously to you because this is a train of thought, and I'm a firm proponent of the concept of stream of consciousness. So let's see where this leads. So as I reread this preface by Oscar Wilde for this recording, I got to thinking about the notion of purpose and how we acknowledge it, either beforehand or in retrospect. I was thinking about all the artists that write and paint and go on stage and rehearse and compose music, because art has always been a very big focus of mine, as you can see from the content in this channel. I've always considered, why would you make art? Why would anyone communicate this way? And what are they trying to communicate? And do they know it beforehand? This train of thought leads us to acknowledge something that is very evident, but I think we only really come to terms with it if we look at it head on, which is we do a lot of things that we don't know why. So what I found myself realizing or contemplating was the notion that when we are kids, when we are children, there are a lot of things that we do that we don't know why we do them, especially in a group. For example, I can't number the amount of times that I was in a group with friends at school and we just decided, let's go run over to that tree, and everybody just ran to that tree. And then, okay, now we have to, I don't know, we're going to play tag, and now you're it, and we start playing tag, and hey, everybody, let's go and explore that forest, and you go, and let's just walk in this direction. Whatever the example is, the point I'm trying to make is that there was no discussion or previous knowledge of why we were doing those things. We just did them. Now that we're adults, now that we are somehow more aware of the world around us, if you can even say that, but we do think of the world in more broader terms instead of just us and what surrounds us immediately. I think we spend a lot of time contemplating why we do things or why we don't do things, and maybe there is a lot of knowledge in just doing things, not overthinking them. One of my favorite bands of all time, Tool, has a very good take on this in one of their lyrics. Overthinking, overanalyzing separates the body from the mind. That's a very insightful notion, and there's a lot to peel off there. There are a lot of layers that we can go into. But considering the matter of purpose, think about your own life. Do you make a point of knowing why you're doing something before you do it? Or maybe you're on the opposite end of this spectrum and you make a point of not knowing the purpose of your actions before you do them, and you just do them. There's a saying that I like that goes, virtue is in the middle. So is that true when it comes to purpose? Is it more virtuous to know why you do the things you do beforehand, or is it more virtuous to learn why you did those things after the fact? Maybe virtue is in the middle, and maybe it depends on the situation and it depends on the action. This can sound very obvious in that it doesn't have a lot of layers to it, but I trust that if you stop to think about your own actions today, last month, just remember the last intense moment in your life and try to remember why you were there, or how you got there, why you were doing it, be it good or bad. Try and focus on that, for example. Is impulse always a bad thing? And is premeditation always a good thing? So again, we go back to the notion of purpose. Imagine a bad moment in your life and try and recall how much effort you put into avoiding feeling bad, if that was the case. Why avoid feeling bad? Isn't it part of the human experience? Why always make a point of feeling good? How much more knowledge will you acquire by only feeling good and avoiding feeling bad than you would if you would allow yourself the entire spectrum of human emotion? The same goes for thoughts and trains of thought. I have embarked on many trains of thought that led me down a path that wasn't necessarily good, if you want to put it like that. It took me to some very dark places, but I came out on the other side more knowledgeable. So maybe the purpose, I don't know what the purpose is when I started this extemporaneous train of thought, but that is the point of all of it, I guess. The point was to embark on a train of thought without a premeditated purpose. All I knew is that I wanted to talk about the idea of purpose, the notion of acknowledging it beforehand or not, and how important is it to know why we do the things we do, if at all. Now, I asked you before to remember to recall a bad moment in your life. Now I'm going to ask you to recall a good moment in your life. If you compare the two, I don't know about you, you tell me in the comments below, but when I'm in a bad moment, I find that I tend to analyze my next actions more than I do when I'm in a good moment. If I'm happy, if I'm fulfilled, if I'm tranquil, I just do things with the assumption that things will be okay. But when I'm down, when I'm in a dark place, I tend to analyze my actions in order to avoid getting to a darker place, or at least finding some light. Truth be told, I don't necessarily avoid dark places. I want to be a part of that entire human experience. When I die, I want to look back and I want to realize that I lived fully And that does not just mean living happy. It means embracing the experience that is coming your way. I find that there is so much beauty in doing that, be it dark or bright. Every experience, when it's honest, it is going to give you a lot to think about. It is going to enrich your soul and your mind with things that you probably never even considered unless you had gone to that experience. So maybe the point of all this was embrace anything that comes your way, be it good or bad, because you're going to be enriched by it either way. So in this light, are those bad experiences in your life just bad? On the other hand, are the good experiences just good? Does it matter to specify? Is it important even to specify? Now, I'm not trying to say that none of this is important, everything is irrelevant, these are just definitions that have no true practical meaning in the world. That's not what I'm going with this. I'm trying to peel off the notion of how important purpose is in our life. Now, of course, we can think about this in a number of ways. One of them being, does it matter to know what the purpose is of every single action in your daily life? Or does it just matter to have a long-term goal and keep that goal in mind as your purpose? But even that one can shift, right? I mean, if you go through your entire life just focusing on that one goal, you're necessarily blocking out a lot of other opportunities because you're so focused on that one thing. And then by going through these side experiences, you probably find a new purpose, a new meaning. So maybe the point of all this, and all this being not just me extemporaneously talking for a long time, but the point of all of this human experience is to learn to fluctuate. Having a purpose, an overarching purpose, is like a beacon. This is where I'm headed. But maybe it is a good thing to go where the tide is leading us. Maybe that's how we find new lands and embark on new adventures. And maybe even peel off another layer of reality that we had no idea even existed unless we had embarked on that new strange tide. So now that we've reached the point of metaphors, I'm gonna leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this tour of the reading room, and I can't wait to share more with you in the future. Until then, stay cool, stay safe, stay classy, and I'll see you then.